you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
And Justice Served TV is on the air. Oh, I shrunk. There you go. That's much better. Michael Bryant here. Hello, Linda Kitty Baden.
Hi, Michael Bryant. I know my lights aren't perfect tonight, and I apologize, but what can I say? Sometimes
Why is that? Why are your lights not perfect?
I forgot to put them on, and then as we're rushing to meet it on the air, because hey, we're live in like 5 seconds. It's not quite configured correctly.
I understand.
I'm in New York. I'm not in the Catskills where I have an actual studio. It's a part of my office. So I hope you all bear with me. So
you look lovely.
Here we are.
So
thank you.
However you like.
Oh, you are breaking up again. It's that pesky server.
It's working.
Is that pesky server is
no,
breaking
well,
up.
That.
See, he's breaking up. We complain about my lights, and Michael Bryant is breaking up, and we don't want to lose him because let me tell you, I was reading an article while you're not breaking up today that came in about near where I live, and it's a place called Walk Hill, but it's the Catskills, right? And some man died when the tree he was taking down fell on him. And I was thinking about you with all of your sawing and all of your treeing that I don't want to lose you, Michael Bryant. And I'm sure your wife
appreciate that.
Lose you, and your kids don't want to lose you.
Depends on the day.
Lose you. So please be careful when you're posting all these videos and doing all that work.
Thank you. Yeah, lately I've just been moving wood. As I posted today, I feel like I'm in the military. I'm moving it pile from here to here so I can do something and move it back. But it's good exercise. Remember Ronald Reagan used to chop wood. He was like in his 70s. It was great exercise. Hey,
I don't really like moving the wood because where I'm I move the wood, I have those little two, like, that S word that I really hate,
Yep. I thought about you today. Yeah. There were 8 mice in the wood pile.
Mice I can take.
But there were no snakes. I felt bad. These mice would work so hard, create like a little mice, a mouse condo in this wood pile, and it was lovely. And they just, they scattered when I get in there and destroy their home. Remember, I was having some issues with the microphone before.
Yes.
And I said I have to get. Yeah, so now I have the new microphone. It's replaced. It's the same as one last time, which I kind of liked. This was the old one, which was having some issues. See how that's all taped up? Yeah. Because I was kind of manhandling it when I was taking it apart. But now I'm just getting rid of it. There will be no confusing this one with the new one since it's now confetti. Hey, how was the weekend other than the Jets game?
Oh, the Jets game. Oh my God, they broke my heart because, well, I do have to tell you, for a Jets fan of 10 years, and it's hard to be a Jets fan that long. This is a brand new team. I think next year is going to be a breakout year for them. You could see this was a different team than we've ever seen. Aaron Rodgers was had a bit of a pissy fit at the end when he won, and I understand because the Jets, the way they let him go, may not have been so perfect. But, he didn't do for the Jets what he did for the Steelers, like win games.
No,
he used $70 million to do nothing for a year,
He was really a bad winner. And my son, who is now in Pittsburgh, has always been a Steelers fan. It's just coincidence that now he's working for the Pirates there. Right. But yeah, I hate bad winners. Just be classy. Things didn't work out with the Jets. Fine, move along. You had a victory. You don't have to be a dick about it. But it was bad. It was bad.
But that's but anyhow. But I'm going back for more because Sunday is the Bills game, which led to a discussion that also led to a rip and read we're going to have because when you're at a stadium, those big screens. At Dallas they call it the jumbotron. But they have these gigantic screens. So that led to a rip and read.
Okay, so that must be my cue to do this thing right here. Okay, so what do you got there that's somehow stadium related?
Kiss Cam. Do you have Kiss Cam?
Oh,
yes.
I have. I will tell you right now, I have so many assets I'm juggling today. I checked with my friends in Vegas. The over-under screw-ups is about 3 right now. So bear with me as I bring this up to. There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
And the reason why I say it there, following the Kiss Cam scandal at a Coldplay concert, Kristen Cabot formally filed for divorce from her husband, Andrew Cabot. Well, the only surprise here is when I sent this to you is that her husband didn't file for divorce from her first. But we had a discussion being in the stadium because the Jets don't do Kiss Cam, okay?
Did they ever? Did they ever
No,
do it?
never,
Oh, okay.
never. And they've
All
done
right.
only crazy dance cam or something like that, or stand up and root for your Jets or sing for your Jets, things that were normal, that wouldn't embarrass anybody and all. And I'm thinking to myself, how can you expect privacy when you come into any type of stadium or any type of venue that has big jumbotrons? And we know that cameras are going around. They've got some guy riding a camera, right? He's riding on a camera, turning around and all sorts of stuff. We didn't even get a chance to have the dance cam, the crazy dance cam. But it led me to the issue of this, and I don't see how anyone expected privacy. And certainly, if you're going to go and you're having an affair, maybe you shouldn't be embracing like we all know that embrace was.
Just dumb. And, I feel sorry for his soon-to-be ex now because she, shouldn't have that relationship outed in such an embarrassing way. But yeah, there are cameras everywhere. There's really no way to do anything in private anymore. Really, it's very difficult. Okay. Did you have another one, or do I have one?
Yeah, no, I have another one.
Okay.
Breaking news was that the appeals court in E. Jean Carroll's suit against Donald Trump, the same appeals court, by the way, that a couple of weeks ago reversed that $500 billion verdict that I'm exaggerating a bit against.
There's only 500 million, but yeah,
Yeah, I'm exaggerating just a bit against on the business. Well, this is actually not the same one. This is a federal appeals court, but her $83 million judgment against Donald Trump for the sexual assault, as she claimed, as the jury found, was upheld by the federal court. So we have a state court, reversing a judgment dealing with business practices. We have a federal court upholding a judgment for $83 million, not quite as big as $500 million for the alleged sexual assault.
Yeah, and I'm glad because I know you're proper and professional. You said sexual assault each time, not confusing it with the higher charge for which he was not found liable, for which other outlets have been sued for millions of dollars because you don't want to use that word when it wasn't one of the convictions. I got a couple of updates here on the Aiden Carney case. He is, of course, going to be back in court on the 24th. We'll be there for that as he continues to wind his way, in theory, toward trials on the witness intimidation charges against him. So you remember there were a number of matters pending before Judge Doolin. And one of them was Ken Mello Yellow, I call him, who was the former prosecutor on the case and has been off the case, but still attorney of record, which has caused some problems because likely he'll be a witness because of his interactions with the unidentified woman, right? Who we all know is Miss Peter. So that was decided in Aiden Carney's favor. Mello is out. He is no longer of record, which means they can depose him if they want. At the very least, call him as a witness at trial. So that was a victory for them. But on the other hand, remember, we've talked about these 4,000 notes and letters and emails and texts that not only were provided as totally redacted documents the first time by the prosecution, but the second time also somewhat redacted, but still impounded. So handed over, but impounded. And then through very public sources, they became, anybody could have them. We had them. But the problem was the defense couldn't publish them because they were impounded, even though released so publicly. That was in front of the court. And guess what the court decided? Nope, they're still impounded.
They're still impounded?
They're still impounded.
That's why people don't understand the courts, okay? They just don't get it, all right?
So anybody, you, me, anybody can look at those, share them, talk about them, but the litigants, the defense, can't do that.
Oh, boy. So. Speaking about the defense, they do have, Aiden Carney does have his show at the Wilbur with Andy Deb, Jimmy, this coming Friday night. We have sent 4 of our people that helped us, I should say, when we were up that we're grateful to. Whoa, I hear some
dominoes cheering on the show.
I'm upset that he didn't get a gift, but
no dogs allowed.
No dogs allowed. I don't know. Service dogs would be. Speaking about gifts, Sui Generous. Again, thank you for your expert commentary format, digging deeper and persistence. Thank you, Linda and Michael. Sui Generous, thank you for being, one of our voracious supporters here. And of course, what would justice serve to
That's
be.
right. Life
if
can go
Joey-
on now. Joey Kane has.
Well, no, it can't, because there's a second
can't?
one that Joey
Oh,
also gets.
all right.
Okay. So
Okay.
thank you, Joey, as usual. Someday Joey Kane should really come on the show.
I know.
We
I
saw
had to
him
force him,
briefly.
on camera when I was up in Dedham last time.
Right.
Hopefully, maybe, Joey, put that on your calendar. The 24th will be up there. Love to have you on, and you can talk and everything.
But that'd be
it'll
nice.
It'd be great. Keep that in mind. And we are going to I should have billboarded this. I didn't. I did some shorts over the last couple of days telling folks we're going to do the top
The
5
shorts meaning,
pieces.
wait.
I was
Let's
wearing some shorts
clarify.
at the time. That was just coincidence.
Shorts meaning just short pieces up to about 60 seconds on our YouTube channel.
Yes, and generally it's it's either a tease or it's just a little slice of life. Some people will write, "Oh, I like watching these little these day of videos," and I'm like, "Don't say that, because I will do more of them." that is a promise, not a threat.
And
So
I
we're
wanna
going to
see
have.
more of them.
You don't even have to be a member, so you could see them.
And not only that, can we tell everybody that we are going to, with our spouses, go to a football game together, and maybe we'll do some stuff from that football game.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad I thought of it.
We should do that ahead of time, because they're playing the Bills, and if anybody knows what happened last night and knows that team, it's going to be a difficult game, even for the best Jets team. So we should do that before you get all worked up over whatever's happening on the field. But who knows? It's football. You got to play. Anything can happen. So we're going to do the top 5 pieces of evidence that perhaps could lead to the arrest and/or conviction of Wendi Adelson. And remember, the key to this countdown, when we get to it, is that we can't use any of her testimony or her witness interview. Remember that almost 6-hour interview she did with the cops? All of that stuff is protected by the state issuing a subpoena to her, which comes with use immunity and derivative immunity. So the 5 things that we're going to talk about are totally independent. And we have to remember, we don't know what else is out there. Right. Georgia Kaplan and the state, they're not showing their hand. They're doing it as they need to for each defendant. So she'd be foolish to share everything she needed in a case against Donna Adelson when it's probably irrelevant except to Wendi Adelson.
Right.
So, but this will get us thinking about what we think are like the top 5 things that are going to blossom into something perhaps we'll see later on in trial. So, is everything done? Are we all caught up with stuff?
I think we're all caught up with comments. Yes, I am wearing fingerless gloves because I was inspired by the VMAs last night, especially Busta Rhymes was wearing fingerless gloves, but I was inspired by the fashion of the VMAs. And then
I did not know the VMAs were on. Was that on?
Football
game?
Yeah, so a split
okay.
screen here. I had my computer on with the football game. I had the TV on with the VMAs. It was, it was really. I was split. Let me just put it that way. And don't steal no 007 Texas. Don't steal no.
Oh my gosh! We didn't show that, but I think everybody knows the story of the woman at the Phillies game who got upset because the father snatched a foul ball, gave it to his son. She felt it was like at her feet somewhere, but he got it. And it's the Wild West. It's anything's as long as you don't assault somebody. Loose ball in the stands, you got to work. You got to get it. You got to fight for it, short of fighting for it. And he got it, gives it to the kid, and she comes storming over saying, Mom, that was my ball. And he finally gives up. The kid gets rewarded, really, for doing that. Meets one of the players, gets a signed bat, gets the star treatment. So it paid off. And he had said, the little kid said, and I don't know how old he was, maybe 7-ish, 8-ish, I don't know. He said, I hope she really wanted that ball. I mean, so the kid's class act, and the woman maybe not so much.
As my law partner said yesterday when we were discussing it, was that, look, even if she did have it, and even if the father had snatched it from her hands, he gave it to a kid.
Yes.
Let the kid have it. Okay.
Yes. I mean, I don't know why we even have to explain that. But anyway, okay, I got some fancy new graphics here. We're going to do the top 5. Let me set this up. The top 5 pieces of evidence that should lead to the arrest and potential conviction of Wendi Adelson. Okay, number 5. Now I've got my other stuff. I have to get organized here. Number 5. This is almost a question for you to figure out, why am I showing what I'm about to show? And I will show you it first, and then I'll tell you why I'm not about to show it, as I have this as number 5. I say number 5 of the items. I said number 5. There we go. This is Dan Markel's car in his garage on Trescott, 2116 Trescott. So you might be wondering, well, how does that car, what does that mean? But how does this relate to Wendi? As you know, he was on the phone at the time, right? He's in the car. He's on the phone. And most people understand how that'll, you start a phone call or you're ending it as you get home and you just sit in the car and finish the call, right?
Right.
He's in the garage. He's on the phone. He is on the phone with the School of Arts science teacher because Wendi Adelson has just started to enroll their 2 young kids in this school without his knowledge. And just so you know how this played out, he's on the phone with her for a few minutes. She hears him say, or is it a man? I'm sorry.
It's a man. It's a man.
A man. The man hears Markel say, hold on a second. There's someone in my driveway that is unfamiliar to me. Then this school teacher hears the shots fired and effectively the end of Dan Markel's life. Why am I showing this and why is this the number 5? Because at this time, and we learned this through other evidence, not from Wendi, she was registering the kids with the name Adelson, not with the name.
Oh, I didn't know that. At the art school?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And so
That's
going to be huge. That's going to be huge because for those who remember some of the testimony suggesting it was within, she was going to do it legally a year later, but
Right.
she'd started doing it publicly. There was a party, right? There was a party that they're invited to. But even before that, this was in motion. And I think that's going to come out in the case against Wendi Adelson, that she was so far ahead of this plan that she's registering the kids without their dad's notice and under her name, not his. So,
oof, 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 oof.
So again, as we discuss these different bits and pieces, we can help tie up, well, where's that going to go or where's that going to come from? And, obviously what Wendi said is not going to be used against her. But there are going to be other bits and pieces. You can get the school records, right? You can get other testimony from teachers. There will be plenty to support that. And for those who have suggested that there's a lot of evidence that she may have been involved in the cover-up, these kinds of things show that she was perhaps involved much earlier than that.
Yeah. Now, Oasis Cat says that the art school was in Tallahassee, or it was in Miami. But
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is not so much about where the school is, it's the name and the fact that he had no clue it was happening.
He had no clue it was happening, right.
No clue, yeah. All right, then. And number 4, let me find this. Okay, this is one of the key, again, setup pieces of information we got from a number of sources, including from Jeff Lacasse, but I'm not using him for this particular one. I've got another, bear with me, as I've got another document that will help flesh out this particular item. And I'm going to read this, because the writing on it is, wow, it's horrible, but it relates to that very conveniently scheduled TV repair. As most people know who have followed this case, the TV repair was the day of the murder and set up that morning, right? We know Wendi testified all about that. We can't use that. That cannot be used against her. This, as badly as it's written, is the police report with his conversation with the repairman. His name was Robert Schwartz, who was not a witness and will be, I would assume. This cop, I'm telling you, he should be a doctor. You know that old joke. How is Dr. Michael Baden's writing? Is it bad?
It's fine. He's got good penmanship. Yeah.
He's bucking every trend. Okay, upon arriving at client's home, client stated there were lines in the TV. Upon inspection, informed her there was impact damage. And although, I hope I'm not making people seasick, but I have to make this large enough to read. Although, and this is a word I can't even see, it says something about not distraught. You could see in her face, she was upset, sad, okay? Remember, her son wasn't there. Her somebody wasn't there. I can't read that.
Son said he didn't do it.
Yes, oh, that's what it says. Okay, son didn't do it, but he wasn't there. I said she. Oh, but she wasn't there when it was done, whenever it was. He was being watched by her dad. So Harvey was watching the child when he allegedly broke the TV. That kind of opens up some other opportunities to, for Harvey's involvement. Who knows? Let's see if I can get back here where it was. Went over costs of replacement. Client stated TV was a gift from her brother. At some point, I believe she was texting him or someone. Talked to client about prices. She stated she would speak with someone and left with the intent to call her later about their decision. Remember, I mean, this avoids the whole nonsense that is this TV, right? It's been described as a dorm-sized TV, which, hey, these days, kids in dorms, who knows how big they get. But in 2014, it was probably, a little TV with impact damage. What kind of moron thinks you can get that repaired, right? That in and of itself is ridiculous. But let's get past that and just point out how important it is that this is the alibi. This is the alibi service agreement, right? It's a TV that was purchased not by her, and the service contract was not in her name. So Harvey and/or Donna had to handle the setup of this repair and the scheduling of this repair. But she obviously had to tell them when she'd be available.
Yeah, wasn't it that if Charlie had actually bought the TV? And
of course, that was his whole deal. This is your divorce gift, right? Cheaper than a hitman. Right. And so this is, to me, her alibi is way too convenient. This is independent evidence of that alibi, and there'll be plenty to support that. Obviously, the repair guy, call him in, call the cop in, and first berate him on his bad penmanship, and then ask him, what else he may have learned from this repair person. The Geek Squad.
And we don't know what they may have interviews with the cop that they didn't share because it wasn't necessary in this case against Donna, but it would be necessary in any case if they were going to bring a case against Wendi.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go. We have 3 more to go. Let's see. So let me hit this button here. Okay, this one, I think people think this maybe should be higher on the list, but I'll put it. Let me see if I can open it up here for you. This is a show and tell of sorts, and we will talk over it while it is underway. Just because I think, come on, where are you? There, is that it? There we go. And I will. Strangely, this is one I want no audio on. Normally, I can't find the audio. Now I'm gonna get rid of the audio. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so what are we doing? We're driving down Trescott because that trip made that day, and again, we're not using Wendy's testimony for that. She testified about it a lot, right? She testified that she just entered Trescott from Centerville, and that's where she saw the police crime scene tape, right? And she had to turn around immediately. Right. Well, there is testimony, which we're going to get to in just a moment, from the officer who actually put up the crime scene tape. Not only did he do that, which makes her testimony, again, we're not using her testimony for indicting her or arresting her. It's impossible for her to have seen the house from that far away. And more importantly, she couldn't be seen from that far away. So
this is you driving down.
This is me cruising down Trescott, just to give you a sense of how far it is from Centerville, and that's the street she turned from onto Trescott. And we're going to get down here. It's about, I don't know, I want to say 0.6 of a mile. It is a long and winding road. I've heard that somewhere before. And all of the humps, there are 4 or 5 humps along the way. It's not, there's one of them. It's not until we get to the very last, second to last one, and it's just 2 houses away from the subject crime scene, and it's a house away from James Geiger, who's the neighbor who unfortunately came upon Dan Markel. So it's you never see what's going on if in fact the crime scene tape was put way down near Centerville. And why would it be? I mean, there's just no reason. So we know she has conflicting testimony on that. Can't be used against her. Doesn't matter. What we do have is, and I want to go through as far as seeing Mr. Geiger's house and then the subject crime scene, because I think that's give you a sense of how close all of these cars were and the tape was to the actual scene. And then we'll play the testimony of the officer that I think is so important that it really creates the number 3 in our top 5 pieces of evidence that will lead to Wendy's arrest and possible conviction for the many things that we don't know that I'm certain the prosecution has. Lovely neighborhood, as I've said before. Nice sized lots. Houses are decent size, not on top of one another, which is great. Okay, I think we're coming up on the general area. Mr. Geiger's house. That's the other side of the street. I was just kind of showcasing some of the variety of homes, not tract homes like we talked about in the area where Wendi lived, which is fine, it's great, but this is certainly a higher value neighborhood. And how do I know Mr. Geiger's home now, having run by this and seen this video a few times? It's the porta potty outside. There it is. So here's Mr. Geiger's house with that bay window that we've seen the picture from the inside of.
Very popular in the 60s, 1960s.
Very popular. And then, of course, there is the house, the driveway, the garage. Okay, now let me talk for a moment while I'm looking for this video, while I'm trying to get the other video. This, a lot of people may not remember this video of this witness because he was on and off so fast. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Officer Brennan.
Yes.
And he testified in every trial, I believe.
He did. In fact, the first time I was looking for my highlights, he basically says the exact same thing every time. But what he says is so important that when you've heard Wendi testify, you put a lot of weight in her testimony. But if you remove that from the mix, and then you kind of see how important this guy's testimony is. Stand by. I do believe I've got him queued up. Here we go. People remember him now? Okay. Oh, that would be the end of it. Let me. 356. Let me cue this up properly. Stand by. 356. Remember, he's there just to say, and this map was helpful too, if you haven't looked at this map. I'm going to leave that up right there, but just a second.
And your marked police car was right there where we see the arrows.
Okay, so you see this way over here on the far right, that's Centerville. So if that were blocked off right there, what kind of eyeballs are you using to see around? You're seeing around corners. Here's where the actual roadblock was, and that's just 3 houses away from the scene, 2 houses away from Mr. Geiger. So this is the testimony that relates to what he saw that day at the scene.
Correct. All right. If I'm turning onto Trescott Drive from Centerville Road, would I be able to see any of the activity over here from here or from this area on Trescott Drive?
No, not back over there.
And is that because the road curves around or winds around?
Yes.
While you were stationed there, did any vehicles approach your location on Trescott, encounter the roadblock, and have to turn around?
Yes, several vehicles.
Okay. Did you notice a particular vehicle that pulled up that you notated in your report that day because it stood out to you?
Mid 2000s maroon or dark red and Odyssey van.
And are you familiar with that make and model and the year of van?
Yes, my family we actually still use it. My son uses it. 2006 on Odyssey.
Okay, so at the time, your family owned the same van.
Correct.
Okay, and you said it was maroon in color, the one you saw that day?
Yes.
At the time, did you know that the ex-wife of the person who was killed drove that type of van?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to show you what's already been admitted as State's Exhibit 18. Was this vehicle consistent with the one you saw that day that turned at the roadblock?
Yes.
Were you able to see the driver of the van?
No.
About what time did the vehicle approach the roadblock?
approximately 1 o'clock, somewhere in that range.
Okay, I think, did you say between 12 and 1? in your
Somewhere in
report?
there.
Okay. They don't know exactly the minute that it approached. Okay. Was there anything unusual about the way the vehicle, or I guess the driver of the vehicle, behaved when the vehicle encountered the roadblock that stood out to you?
It just wasn't fast or anything, but it was just a little more deliberate and pulling up, turning around, and leaving. The other vehicles, which is consistent with other times I've had to block roads, when vehicles pull up, they kind of stop and they're processing like, well, I can't go this way, and trying to think, well, where do I got to go now, etc. So this one didn't squeal tires or anything like that, but I mean, it was boom, 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 and out.
So just less hesitation.
Correct.
Did the driver of the vehicle ask you any questions?
No.
Did the driver of the vehicle question anybody else, any other officers there at the roadblock?
Not where I was.
They just
No.
turned around and went back towards Centerville?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, now I'm going to anticipate counter arguments. Care to make any while I'm anticipating?
Well, the first one I'm going to make is that there's been, if something should, gosh forbid, happen to this officer, right? There hasn't been a deposition of counsel represented by Wendi, as far as I know. And his testimony is not preserved merely because he testified in all of these trials. So I would just note that for the record. The counter arguments would be, hey, she was just like rushing to get out of there because she knew this was her house, and maybe she wanted to go back and see her kids and see if she knew, she wanted to go back and see where her kids were at school.
Maybe go to the school where they've been dropped off and make sure they're all right.
So that's why she's rushing.
I would also argue, you have the cop on the stand who says that it's like my car. My kid still uses it. So how many of those cars are out there? These two are in a very, Tallahassee's not, megalopolis. It's decent size, but how many others could there possibly be that were not her? Now, I throw this out there because I think it's a way into something else. There's going to be plenty of other evidence. They're going to check all kinds of cams, and who knows that they haven't already? Right. Who knows that they don't already have cameras showing her taking the route she did to get there? Don't need those in any of the prior trials, but I'll bet you they've got that kind of evidence that confirms this was not just your random red minivan with somebody who seemed to be in a hurry to get the hell out of there.
And also maybe cameras going the other way. The problem is that how do you get to which way Wendi went without her testimony?
Well, okay, let's see if that's relevant. If you are suspicious of this red vehicle, right, and you know what time that was, I did like how Ms. Dugan had to help him a little bit with the time frame, because 1 o'clock does not help. 1 o'clock is not good because she's already at the lunch, right? Right. So she said, based on some prior testimony or prior report, he said 12:30-ish. She was a little fuzzy on that time. But let's assume it's 12:30, okay? You can back that time up and look at all the cameras in that area to follow any red van. And if you do that, going backwards, you're going to find its point of origin. Yeah. And that's going to be her house.
Now, by the way, people want to know why her interview may not be able to be used. And you and I had this debate this afternoon because in some states, even though you granted immunity, you could use her interview with the police because she gave it before the use immunity for the testimony was granted. But you checked up and you found out that in the state we're talking about, that may not be the issue. The issue is she may have immunity even with regard to that police interview if she's granted use immunity. That's
my less than in-depth research. But think about it. If it weren't true, if you could use the interview, then giving her immunity is a joke, because she says so many things in that interview that could then be used against her.
But that's against her, not against the trial she's testifying in.
Oh, of course
not.
Has
the use immunity. Okay.
No,
but anyhow, but it's an open question, by the way, just so you all know.
Yeah, I think
it's something that Michael and I debated this afternoon.
Yeah, I think to me, there's no logic in protecting her testimony if you can then bring in that interview. It waters down any sort of protection. And I don't think she's represented by counsel. I don't think they're that stupid that they would just allow that to happen. There is so much in that interview that is incriminating. I tend to believe my research. Okay, here we go. Number 2. Let me check my notes. Oh, one of our favorite witnesses, and this is I will admit that I had kind of a twofer here. Our last two, number 2 and number 1, involved testimony of very important witnesses, and I've taken 2 chunks of each of their testimony because I think it was so important. I've kind of collapsed them into, in this case, 2A and 2B. Hey, 2B.
The poodles.
Not
over
your,
there.
yeah, not your 2B. Let me see if I can find the one I'm looking for here. Stand by. Stand by. I'm done with you. I'm done with you, cop. I'm done with you. You can leave now. Thank you for your service. Okay. Where are you?
While you're doing that, let me just point out that Janet Reed gifted 1 Justice Serve TV membership. Thank you very much, Janet. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Janet.
Already probably got it. Remember, you have to be a subscriber to get one of the gifted memberships. So please hit that subscribe, share, like, and the notify button.
Okay, you bought me almost enough time.
Trying.
Yep, I appreciate that. Okay, let me get back where I was here. Okay, and again, one of our favorite witnesses, and he's so important to this case, and all of the cases he's been super important for, right? Luis Rivera. He talks about a couple of different topics
And
that
what
are
was the purpose of
critical.
this murder as you understood?
What was the purpose of this murder as you understood it?
That they wanted the kids.
Who wanted the kids?
Wendi.
Okay. And did you understand that you were killing the father of the kids so that Wendi could have the kids?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you previously referred to a dentist being involved?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was the dentist?
Charlie.
And how was he related?
Katie's boyfriend, side piece, whatever you want to call him.
All right. So Katie was the wife of Garcia, but also the girlfriend of the dentist?
Yeah.
So now you could argue that, hey, that information could have come from Charlie, that it was for Wendi so she could have the kids. But it opens up the door and it makes it clear that if this guy's belief that it was all about kids for Wendi, that had to originate somewhere.
Right.
And you don't need Wendy's testimony to get there. I think you're going to get Jeff Lacasse's testimony as well. What do you think about this guy on that topic?
I think he's critical on that topic because that's his understanding as the hit person, and that gives the motive, right? There you go. Motive is right there, and we start from that. And they, the prosecution's pretty much early on in all the cases used him pretty early, right? Depending on the case, and why? Because he's got the inside knowledge, and he's the one who didn't believe that Garcia Segredo, the actual shooter, right, should actually, go to trial, take what's offered, because who are the Adelsons to Segredo Garcia? They weren't going to come out and help him at all. And of course they didn't. So I do believe Luis Rivera. I do believe that, he's one of the few people who took a deal, but I absolutely believe him.
Yeah. And I just think he tees up in the trial that we've seen, and he's testified this way consistently, that it was Wendi who wanted this to be done. We know she was the chief beneficiary. But I guess I'm just guessing there's a lot more on this topic that supports what Segredo Garcia has to say.
Well, remember when Segredo Garcia came in on his queen for a day, he gave them 3 pieces of information they had not known before. And that's the 3 that they discussed there in this trial. Maybe there were 4 pieces, maybe there were 5 pieces that they needed confirmation of that they did know, but they wanted confirmation of. We haven't heard that.
Yeah.
Put in that way.
Again, these are like the tip of the proverbial iceberg. These are things that tell me there's more out there. There's something, right? So continuing with his testimony, this is 2B now, because he had so much to say and it was so important. Check this out.
Was there a reason the murder had to be done on the day that it was done?
I believe so. I believe he was about to leave.
Who was about to leave?
Markel.
About to leave town?
Yeah.
How did you get that information?
I got it from Tudo.
Where did he get the information?
From Katie.
How did she know?
Wendi.
You think Wendi talked to Katie and told her Dan Markel's travel plans?
Yeah.
Were you present for that
No.
phone call? Okay. But somehow you learned that Dan Markel was leaving town the day after he was killed.
Yes, ma'am.
So it had to be done that day or he'd be gone.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, counter arguments for this. Go ahead.
He didn't hear it. It's all hearsay
No
and
personal
double
knowledge.
hearsay and triple hearsay. It's not his
Yep.
personal knowledge, and he's going to say whatever he wants the prosecutor to say because he's right now still in prison. And if he doesn't say what the prosecutor wants to say, that deal that it was so great that he got that he only had to do another 7 years on the 12 he was already doing in federal prison would go bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. See you later, alligator. You know, and so that's why his truthfulness is in doubt because of that.
Okay,
That's the
so
counter
here's how I would buttress that. Who else knows Dan Markel's schedule? I mean, is there any reason for Donna Adelson to know his schedule? Is there any reason for Catherine Magban-Waugh to know his schedule? Certainly not the hitman or Luz Rivera. Only logically, unless I hear evidence to the contrary, it's logical that Wendi knows his schedule because of the kids, right?
Right.
I know that he had a blog of some sort, but let's face it, is the family members checking his blog to see if he's got some out of town plans? I think it's critical that not just that Sigfredo is told by Rivera and by Ms. Magban-Waugh that Wendi told them when he was going to be gone. I think it's logical that only Wendi would know when he was going to be gone.
And
So
even
I think
if she knew and she related it to her mother, that it had to come
where
from.
did it originate? Yeah.
Where did it originate from?
Donna, Charlie, whatever. Wendi had to be the one that confirmed it for them.
Yeah, and we do want to get Dan Markel's lawyer on because we understand that they were about to file a motion soon after the hit took place that would accuse Wendi of some very serious issues, and that Wendi may have known that motion was coming. We don't know, so we're not putting it in our top 2 here, but that also may be relevant.
Yep, Steve Webster was the attorney at the time, and he had his own suspicions, right?
Right.
Okay, so I don't have any drum roll, but I do have and this one is actually kind of a 1A and a 1B because I just couldn't separate them out, and I wanted top 5. It sounded more like classic. But this guy has been such an important witness from the very beginning, from every trial, and it's certainly not going to be any different when he testifies, if it happens, in the Wendi trial. This is, of course, the professor, Jeffrey Lacasse, the former boyfriend. Of course, you're going to be saying right out of the box, this guy's the jilted lover. He's got reasons to lie, and you got to mistrust everything he has to say. Okay, I mean, that's something that the jury is going to have to sink their teeth into at some point. But the first point I want to use is, let me find it here. Remember, they had this kind of weird breakup where they were breaking up and then they weren't breaking up. And then when he thought they were broken up, Wendi reaches out and says, let's go do yoga. And there was one of the lighter moments in the courtroom when he said, I didn't even know why we were doing yoga, stretching for 80 minutes. So clearly not a yoga fan. You're a yoga fan.
Yeah, no.
Is that what it is? Stretching for 80 minutes?
Well, that could be one day of yoga. I mean, there's all sorts of different types of yoga, but they obviously went to a stretching class because he doesn't do yoga, right?
Yeah,
he's not going to do a very vibrant class of yoga.
He is, as my friend Fonnie would say,
typical man.
No, he's not. There's a lot of men.
The girl wants to go do yoga. I'm in. I'm going. Okay, so let's listen to what happened after yoga.
Okay, what happens as you walk away?
Get about 10, 15 feet away from her, and she calls after me. I turn around, and she had a series of detailed questions about what I would be doing on Friday. I had a trip to Tennessee planned, and she wanted to know if I was going on that trip, and she wanted to know what route I would be taking. And if I didn't go on the trip, why wouldn't I go on the trip? And I answered the questions as best I could, but I was confused why at that moment she wanted to know the details of what I was doing on Friday when she expressly didn't want to spend time with me on Friday.
Okay, and we now know that Dan Markel was murdered on Friday.
Yes.
Right? If you had taken the trip as planned, which is as you reported to Wendi that day, what would your route have been?
I would have left my house at about 11 a.m., which Wendi knew. I'd related my plan to her earlier in the relationship. Needed to get to Atlanta for dinner and was worried about traffic and stuff like that. So I would have left at 11 and I would have driven down. I would have got to Capitol Circle in Thomasville, which is close enough to Danny's house that it kind of gave me the creeps. It was kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got confused partly because he said I was going to Tennessee, and then he's talking about going to Atlanta. And I've made that trip. That's a good 4-hour drive, but I guess it was on the way to where he was ultimately going to be in Tennessee. So part A to my number one, to our number one, is just the fact that why she's so concerned, especially since they've broken up. Why is she so concerned about where he's going to be and where he's going to go? This, of course, leads to the theory that she was setting him up. I have to believe there is a ton of additional evidence that circulates around this theory, right? And ultimately, the reason he changed plans, which she did not know.
Right, but I think that's so important. She did not know.
Yeah, and again, there's going to be all kinds of other witnesses to testify about that. People that were on the receiving end of his trip. All of that information is going to circle back to the fact that she was very concerned that he followed and was near the house at or about the time the murder was supposed to take place. In, by the way, a car, and I didn't include this, it's kind of a subset. His car looked strikingly like the car used by Sigfrido Garcia and Mr. Rivera. They had a Prius. His was not a Prius, but kind of that generic silverish looking sedan.
Right. And remember, she had broken up with him by email the Tuesday before the homicide, before the murder. And she did it by email because she didn't like to have, she didn't want, the confrontation.
Conflict.
She didn't want she didn't like confrontation, and told him in the email not to call her or talk to her for a week. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's suspicious when it goes into that.
Yeah. And he even said in his testimony here that, so he never even responded to that. He thought it was weird that she was doing it in the first place and then never reached out to say, well, what do you need a week for? I think we've broken up already. I think we've broken up. So the ultimate biggie, and there's so many that will come from Jeff Lacaste's testimony. He is a critical witness, but there's that moment that he talks about that you have to believe he is just making stuff up, or it is huge in terms of incriminating evidence. Let me bring him back. Where'd you go there, bud?
Okay, while you're looking for it, let me just tell you that has to do with sworn statements that are prior. It does not have to do if you give use immunity for unsworn statements, which a police interview is unsworn. But thank you very much. Justice is a process, but it's not applicable. Sorry.
Okay, are you ready? Let's see.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was getting a little tired of this whole drama around the relocation. And so I pushed back on Wendi a little bit and said, you're going to have to kind of make your peace with this. You're going to have to take some responsibility for this. You're linked to Dan Markel for life. Kind of challenged her a little bit. And she said, well, can I tell you something confidentially? And I said, sure. And she said, last summer.
You notice there was an objection there for hearsay, and of course it is a alleged statement of co-conspirators. So what were they so concerned about keeping out?
The objection is overruled. May continue with your answer.
She
Can
said,
I tell you something in confidence?
Yeah, can I tell you something? After I challenge her, can I tell you something in confidence? Sure. Well, last summer, my brother looked into all options possible to take care of the Danny Markel problem, including hiring a hitman, and it would cost about $15,000.
Okay, and when she referred to her brother, she's got two of those, right?
She said Charlie.
Okay. And when she said Charlie looked into hiring a hitman, are you familiar with Charlie's joke? I looked into hiring a hitman, but got you a TV as a divorce present because it was cheaper.
Yeah, Wendi told me that joke a couple of times. This was not that joke.
Okay, so this was something different.
Yeah, the joke was said with levity. It's a dark joke, but this I found chilling. I found disturbing. It made my stomach flip. It kind of took me aback. She was dead serious when she said this, and she'd asked to tell me in confidence, which you don't do before you tell a joke.
Okay, so I want to take you to.
Well, I think that is brutal, and in and of itself is so incriminating and damning and leads to so many other possibilities in terms of Wendi Adelson's involvement. I just want to see how they weave all of this together. I truly believe she will be charged.
Yeah. I had a conversation with you today. I said, you said, what are the maybe that she won't be charged. I said, well, maybe Georgia Kappelman is leaving the office because she has hired a lawyer to take her calls, to be her representative on the calls. Maybe Sarah Dugan's leaving the office because she is applying for judgeships. So maybe if they plan on leaving the office, and I don't know this, maybe they're thinking that's it, the end of it. That's the end of their involvement, unless somebody from the office takes over. That's a possibility, right? That could happen.
I suppose I would hope that, and I wish them the best wherever they're going to end up, but I would hope that would not be the reason to, further prosecute anybody who's done anything wrong. Wendi Adelson, Harvey Adelson. I would hope that if they were leaving because they felt it was done, it's because they were not going to charge anybody, not just because we're done with this. Somebody else can pick up the loose ends.
And somebody asked, Aaron Penner, you ask very good questions, Aaron, all the time, who's recently joined us as a member. Could the state get Jeff's testimony about Wendi asking about young children's memories to Wendy's trial? The answer is yes, because the reason it was precluded in this trial is because there hadn't been discovery on it, hadn't been turned over. But the next trial, that will have been turned over, and that could come in if Wendi is charged there.
Yep, and he wasn't designated as an expert, and that's expert type testimony. You and I.
Yeah, but not the fact that she asked about it.
No, for him to submit that testimony, it's expert type testimony.
I disagree. I think that the fact that she asked about it's not. What he may have told her could possibly.
Oh, sure, of course.
But even the fact that she asked about it was ruled that inadmissible because it had not been disclosed.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that was appropriate, because the answer, I think, would have been inappropriate, and they did strike the answer, but the question was still hanging out there for the jury. Why would she be so concerned about something like that?
Right, and the mother, Donna, was concerned at some point. That made a statement later on when we had those tapes about the kids don't have any memory or something. They're not upset they don't have any memory or something like that. Thank you, American Dreamer, again for that one Justice Serve TV membership.
American Dreamer, right? That's all like that. Hey, I have some bonus Markel. Okay.
Bonus Markel.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the case, not him. And this is from the witness we just heard from, and thanks to Mentor Lawyer, because I scrounged this from the Deep Dive True Crime site. You may or may not remember that Jeff Lacasse was interviewed 3 times by the cops, 3 times for many hours. The last one was March 6, 2015. And after going through most of it, I just came on some interesting back and forth that took place toward the end of that last interview. And remember, we haven't heard everything from this guy, right? I mean, this guy's got so much to talk about. So let me just play just a little snip of it, because I do think what he has to say gives us some insight as to maybe what we might hear if there is another trial. Let me find it here. Where are you? Yeah, oh, there you are. Again, this is from the 3rd interview that was given to the police by Jeff Lacasse, and he was really talking about so many things relating to his relationship with Wendi.
Then you're a U.S. citizen. You don't. There's nothing. Yes, they have First Amendment in their favor, but that doesn't mean you have to say a thing.
No, I appreciate that, but I watched Dateline enough that I can just imagine that me being presented with these pseudo suspects. That's how they do it. They just.
Let me back it up. He's talking to, I guess, Detective Isom is his name. And he's concerned, Jeff is concerned about the media, among other things. How do I, in your experience, how do I fend off the media? He's already been approached. Remember, this is a full, almost 9 months after the incident?
In his emails, I'm like, oh, great. So
I would not worry about it.
Okay.
I don't see a concern there.
It's actually 2015.
I just said.
Yeah, so it's about 9 months after.
Right. Does this sound like someone who's being stalked? This is, I'm trying to work this out with you, maybe, or maybe not, but there's no mention of that.
So I mean, I look at that as you were showing a defense for why you would not be
The one other email I sent him, I pretty much accused her.
But I mean, obviously you.
Backstory, I didn't get into this in too much detail because what's coming is what I'm interested in. But the backstory was that Wendy's fooling around on Jeff when they had what he thought was an exclusive relationship. And there was all kinds of evidence of that.
It's more than that. I mean, yeah, you more than just suspect her at this point. That's what you've been telling me this afternoon, right?
That's true. That's
what I'm basically gotten from you is this woman is directly involved.
She is.
Now, I don't think you're saying necessarily that she killed her ex-husband,
No.
but she either had something to do with orchestrating it or had knowledge that it was going to happen. That's the whole point about I have to be back on the 18th, right?
Give you a thumbs up, and then and know what's going to happen. There's something weird about that date, so I don't think she doesn't have the skill to orchestrate it, but Charlie does. So that's correct. And
But you left on Thursday, and your last conversation with her was on Wednesday.
My last conversation with her was on Tuesday. Yeah. An hour before that email where she says, "Look, I need a week."
No, on the email she says she needs a week.
Yeah.
An hour before she sends the email, she said, "Are you still in town on Friday?"
That's exactly right.
And you said, "I don't know, it's still up in the air." But she did not ask you to stay in town.
No, she did. But like the next day, I see Jay McPherson at work, and maybe there's all kinds of possibilities how she would have found out I was leaving. Do you have any suggestions if I know they're doing a dateline on the Frosh guy. They killed his wife out in Thomasville, and they only came to town. Any just advice for being an experienced investigator? What I should do if I'm approached by the media, because it's not unimaginable.
Go talk to investigator Rice.
Okay,
How simple is that?
that's easy.
Okay, go talk to Investigator Isom. So he does two things in this part of his interview. First of all, he reinforces the whole breakup bizarreness that took place, but also, and it didn't make our top 5, but very important, was her concern that they had that trip planned to California, and they were scheduled to be gone from the 13th to the 17th, right? 17th is a Thursday, right?
Right.
So
Killing was on the 18th, right?
yes, that's on a Friday. So they were set to be back on Thursday. She canceled the trip because she was concerned about having to pick the kids up on Friday. And if something happened in their flight from Southern California to Atlanta and then ultimately to Tallahassee, that she would somehow not be able to pick the kids up at 5 o'clock on Friday. They're due back the entire day before. So did make our top 5, but certainly that's going to be an issue. That's going to come up. I think there's going to be discussions about his concern for her fidelity, because that's going to suggest bias, motive on his part to lie, to make up all of this stuff. So that's going to come in. It's going to be ugly. But he's for it. He has said in more than one interview, he said, if I have to be a witness, I will tell you exactly what I've just told you now under oath. So.
Yeah, that was very interesting. I also think it was interesting that, and we really haven't talked about the hitman, because people castigate Jeff Lacoste. So why don't you go to the police at that point? I think that was Wendi setting up Charlie. And as we named this series early on, as the Adelsons turn on one another, I think she was setting up Charlie. And that leads to the question, when we had the wiretaps later on, where Donna says something to the effect of, your brother has protected you all along. Your brother has protected you all this time, words to that effect. And I think that Wendi, if you think that she knew what was going to happen and she's going to get arrested for this and she's going to get charged for this, that she's already setting up her defense, which is Charlie did it, not me.
Right. Right. And now, if you think in Donna's trial, you heard the defense of, you got the killers, you got them. You've got Sigfredo Garcia, you have Luis Rivera, you have Katie McBenoit, you have Charlie Adelson, you have Donna Adelson. Poor Wendi. Yes, she benefited from this horrible tragedy. In her mind, she's unfettered. She can live wherever she wants with these kids. But that doesn't mean she had anything to do with his death. I mean, come on.
And in fact, she didn't she's not living with her parents. She didn't get to move to Southern Florida. Yeah. She's been here. She's been in Texas. She's in Colorado. She's all over the place with the kids. This is not what she wanted. I mean, you can hear that. I mean, I hear that already.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going to be fascinating. And so since we may never, ever get to do this again.
As the Adelsons turn on one another.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever get to use that again. So
Yeah, because we may not. We'll see.
may
We'll
not.
see. We haven't even talked about Harvey.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we've talked about that, you and I, just briefly. So if folks think they'd like to see a similar treatment for Harvey, we'll do that. Give us some feedback on that, because I wouldn't mind digging into that, because so many things in this trial against Donna, for the first time, started pointing very directly at Harvey, and he's always
right.
been,
At least after the
he's
fact,
orbited
right?
above the fray before.
Yeah, at least certainly after the fact.
Definitely after the fact.
Definitely after the fact. So on some personal notes, Winnie, Linda, where did you get the gloves? Amazon cashmere gloves, $9.99 deal of the day.
Are those for the special? Was that the special?
That was the special, right?
Yeah,
And then
all
Mr.
right.
Monk's understudy, Linda, who were on your best dressed VMA list? We're just lightening things up, right?
I get you.
Sabrina Carpenter, obviously the top
She's
of my
something.
list.
Yeah, she's something. How tall is she?
I don't know, but certainly
She's
that was
very
my
tall.
best dress list. So we're just lightening things up. Normally we do Fashion Friday, but we're doing a little Fashion Monday just to lighten things up, because you can't deal with. I don't know how you. I'll say I feel bad for those poor grandchildren, those poor children who will never get to know their father. And quite frankly, if you really wanted to have a defense for any of these people, they would have said, look at all they did to put Dan Markel's name in their memory. So their memory was imbued with their father, and they've been seeing their father every single day for the last 11 years in some way, shape, or form. That's the only way to have tried this case, to say they didn't have anything to do with it.
Yep. And every time I see Phil or Ruth Markel and the pain they're going through, I just wonder what is in Wendi Adelson's mind that she thinks that's okay to create that barrier between the kids and their grandparents. What does she think the Markels did? In this whole scheme, what does she blame them for? I don't understand it. It just makes her look cold and evil.
Yeah, I don't know. The children are always the true victims, right? I mean, not that
They're
Mr.
the
Markel
pawns,
wasn't the
yes.
victim, but
Yeah.
they're always the ones that going to live the rest of their life, and they may not even know that they are the true victims, and they may not never accept they're the true victims.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And who knows what their next name is going to be. I'd rather be a Markel myself than an Adelson, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you're trying to protect them, but wow, I mean, just wow is all I can say. All right, we need another fashion. Someone wants to know, Mary Malarkey, the color of my lipstick. It's by Mario, and it's this deep red. It's actually one of the ones that Taylor Swift wears. She has a number of different lipsticks. This is one of the ones she wears.
Speaking of lipstick, I was going through some of the different comments from the last lipstick you put on.
Yeah.
Not a lot of fans.
Green, not a lot of fans.
Not a lot of fans.
Green, yeah.
Yeah.
And I kept saying I had to keep answering things. Look, we explained this. We do lighthearted for the first 7, 8, 9 minutes of the show. As people come in, as they get the notification, you're on the air, and it takes a while. Sometimes you get it after we've started, and they come in. We do some light stuff, and I've explained that, and then we went into the fact that of course, this is how Madonna wanted to see Mr. Markel decomposed and in a grave, and we buffered into that. So unless you missed the first explanation and on the buffering into that, you wouldn't understand the reason why I was wearing green lipstick.
Yes, it was all for the Jets. All for the Jets. Net Detective, do you think Wendi will be picked up before her mother's sentencing? Sentencing's on the 14th, I believe, October 14th. And why do I know that? Because we've been trying to get an interview with Georgia Kappelman, and she's basically trying to put us off till after the sentencing. So we'll see if we ever do it. By then, who knows what's going to happen? We'll certainly be covering the sentencing, even though it's a done deal. I think they'll probably reopen for additional victim impact statements. Do you think, or not?
Well, you have the other charges of solicitation.
Yeah.
The solicitation conspiracy. You can't get more on the murder. I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that, Michael.
And I didn't really answer the question directly. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say when or if it's going to be after that. Remember, until somebody is sentenced, they are not convicted.
Right.
And that's the Dersh, I call it.
The judge has to. He can't, even though he listened to the victim impact statements, and even though he said that by law that sentence on murder can't change, he can't enter the final what's called the judgment of conviction. It has to be on everything in the indictment that is completely done. before a judge can enter a judgment of conviction, which is why sometimes things take a long time for the judgment of conviction to be entered, and then the right to appeal occurs after the judgment of conviction.
That's right. Then you've got your 30-day clock on that. The only exception might be if you have a hung jury on one count and a conviction on the other, then they can pair it out that way.
Sometimes, some states you can't.
This case, 14th of October, we'll be back in it. And if you guys are interested in the Harvey analysis, let us know. Otherwise, we'll move on. We got some other stuff in the works. We got a lot of stuff in the works, actually.
A lot of things in the works.
All right, Ben. Well, good to see you. Sorry about the Jets. I'll be there. Since I'm a Rams fan, I can cheer for the Jets. So next week I'll cheer for the Jets. You know, I'm an NFC guy. What do I care? So I will be. I will be in your corner.
I'll be the one in green lipstick.
Okay, maybe I'll do that. That would be something.
And in the meantime, you have to hit subscribe, share, like, and notify. We had a lot of subscriptions, memberships given out tonight. Unless you are a subscriber, you do not get a membership. So just use this opportunity to hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. The like button, the share, and also put your comments. I mean,
yeah, we're getting some amazing comments,
Yeah.
and the YouTube overlords seem to love that stuff, that kind of interaction, and we appreciate it. We try to respond as best we can to everything, but keep coming with that stuff.
Even the haters.
Of course, we don't care. Whatever. And we're gonna have a comments show, I think, later this week. I'm thinking about that. We haven't had one in quite a while, so get those things in there. All right, partner. Thanks. Good job as always. And I guess until tomorrow, I'm Michael Bryant. You're Linda Kenney Baden. This is Justice Served TV, and try to do the right thing.